Warm, hot and hyper hatchbacks are becoming less common on Australian roads. Take for instance the Ford Focus ST, the Ford Fiesta ST and even the Renault Megane RS. All are no longer on sale in Australia. But there is still hope for those who want a little bit of fun on the road in a hatchback sized vehicle, and that brings us to today's video where we'll be talking about this, the Kia Cerato GT. Now this very car is priced currently at $36,090 before on-road costs, or around $38,000 drive away, which makes it cheaper than a Hyundai i30N. However, in this video I want to find out, is this as much fun as an i30N, or is it a little bit more tame and more on the warm side of things? In this video we're going to check out everything to do with the Cerato GT in 2023. That will include its interior, its practicalities, how comfortable it is, and most importantly, how it drives on the road. But before we get started, how about you like and subscribe to Chasing Cars? So let's start on the design front for the Kia Cerato GT. I think this thing is pretty smart looking. It doesn't look quite as good as the sedan version, which you can also buy for the same amount of money, but it is smart. It still looks fresh and modern even though this car is a few years old now. I really like the 6-point DRL headlights that are at the front here. And also it's worth mentioning the 18-inch alloy wheel design, which is unique to the GT. And those wheels are wrapped in pretty premium Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyres. And if you're struggling to see the difference between a Cerato and a Cerato GT, the biggest giveaway is the red accenting through the grille, on the air ducts down the bottom, and also on the 18-inch alloy wheels. So what's the GT like on the inside, in the cabin? How does it feel? Well, for the most part, it's very premium in here, and for $36,000, it's probably one of the most premium offerings you can get at that price point. And this is down to a few key factors, such as this really nice leather steering wheel, these pretty sporty GT leather seats that are ventilated and heated and electric too for the front. And there's not a lot of hard, scratchy plastics around the place. All of this is all sort of soft to the touch, which is really lovely. Now for the main technology inside the cabin, we've got a 10.25-inch touchscreen just here and a small 4.2-inch display right in front in the driver's cluster. Now these are both okay and they work fine, but they are starting to age. Especially having these analog dials here is a little bit old school now. I wish that this car got the Kia Seltos's full digital instrument cluster. Now this 10.25-inch screen also runs wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It does also have satellite navigation, but it is a little bit bongy and it keeps going off at you all the time with speed zones and such, which you can turn off in the settings. Now also in this Cerato GT you get dual zone climate control, you get two USB ports down the front here and a 12-volt outlet as well. You've got two pretty decent sized cup holders and you've got pretty deep door bins on the side as well. And if you don't have your cord with you, then that's fine because you can wirelessly charge your mobile phone just here in this little nook. And to top it all off, you also get a glass sunroof as standard. So what about the back seat of the GT? Well, I'm 5'11". I'm sort of kind of comfortable back here. I've got a little bit of knee room with the driver's seat in its, regular position. I've got plenty of toe room, but the headroom is kind of close. I've only got about a centimetre or two of space and it's a little bit protruding here on the side, which I don't particularly like. It'd be perfect for kids back here, but might not be so good for adults on long trips. Now back here you get two air vents, you get a USB-A port, and you also get two cup holders that are hidden in the fold down armrest. So around the back of the Cerato, inside the boot, you'll get 428 litres of storage space, which is 33 litres more than its related cousin, the Hyundai i30. Now back here, you do have plenty of room. There's two little nooks on each side, and there's a space saver spare tyre underneath. And you've also got this little parcel shelf just here, which is really handy. It keeps the sun off your groceries when you're going to the shops. So in terms of running costs, what will the Kia Cerato GT cost to service? Well, over 5 years, it'll cost $1,913 over a 5-year period. Every Kia Cerato is covered by their 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty. Now in terms of fuel economy, the Cerato GT claims to do about 6.8 litres per 100 kilometres on the combined cycle. However, we got really close to this, 6.9 litres per 100 on the combined cycle, and that is on a mix of driving styles through city, highway and sporty driving. And a quick note to add, the Cerato has a 50-litre fuel tank and also requires just regular standard unleaded petrol, which is pretty surprising considering it's a turbocharged performance vehicle. And in terms of insurance, over the last 12 months, the median budget direct customer paid $865 to comprehensively insure their new Kia Cerato GT. Your premium may vary based on things that insurers take into account, such as your age, driving history, where you live, and whether or not you garage the car. So what's the Serato GT like to drive? Well, this is where the fun bit comes in, because this car is quite characterful, and more so than I was expecting. Under the bonnet is a 1.6 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine that produces 150 kilowatts and 265 newton meters of torque. Now, those aren't huge numbers by any means, but you certainly do pick up pace quite quickly in this car, especially when you're up in the mountains, which I was lucky to do earlier this week, and actually see what this car's like in the twisties. Now, the engine is quite strong, it's torquey, it gets moving very quickly, and it's fun. It sounds good too, and hopefully I can give it a bit of beans up here in a bit, and you'll be able to hear that 1.6 litre engine really working. Now, when you are driving it sort of around town, it's fine, but one of the big problems with the Kia Serato GT is the ride. It is very firm. Now, Kia says this car has a sports suspension setup, and you can feel it. It is really, really firm, and it's a passive setup, so there's no adaptive dampers, and it just seems to be that little bit too firm for around town. And I've been driving it all through Sydney all week, and I find it to be a little bit too firm day to day. But back onto the powertrain now, and look, it's cool. You can use this car in manual mode with the paddles. I usually just leave it in automatic, but it is quite chuckable, and it does really get up and go, as we can see just here. It's really punchy out of the corners. It's got an open differential at the front, but it's actually quite controlled for an open differential. Would it be better with a limited slip diff? Probably, but for this car, it's fine. And as I've said in the video, this car is more of a warm hatch than a hot hatch. Now, one other little gripe about the powertrain is the transmission. It can be a little jerky and a little bit hesitant at times. It's a 7-speed dual clutch automatic transmission, and it just seems to slip a little bit when you get going, and it doesn't sort of get into gear quick enough. And I think it could be a little bit more refined, which Kia could improve with the next Serato GT, if there will be one. And I have to note that although this car doesn't have like an active exhaust system like a i30N, it doesn't crackle and bark at you like a crazy dog or something like that, it still feels characterful and tuneful, and it's definitely louder than like the Picanto GT that I used to run as a long-termer. Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. Now let's talk about safety, which is a crucial part of a car in Australia these days. This car has autonomous emergency braking, it has rear cross traffic alert, it has lane keep assist, which does quite a good job. It's not crazily intrusive. It sort of does keep you in your lane, but it doesn't sort of cut in and out of the steering really aggressively, which I like. And this car was tested by ANCAP back in 2019. This car is sort of getting on a little bit now. It's time for an update. But when I did test it in 2019, it's got a 5-star ANCAP safety rating, which scored particularly well in the adult occupant protection, which was 90%, and for child occupant protection, which was 83% out of 100. So a pretty good effort there for the Serato GT. So all in all, how do I feel about how the car drives? Well, I guess I'm a bit half-half at the moment about this car. In ways, it's really good and really fun in terms of what it can do in the city, and if you take it up a mountain road, it's quite capable, and I like that about it a lot. But I think for most people who buy a Kia Serato GT, they'll be in the city, and they might find that the ride is a little bit too harsh for them day to day. It might get a little bit tiring, and that transmission's just not quite there. It's certainly quick, but it's just not as refined as I would like for a transmission. But like, as you can hear right now, it's a lot of fun. You can really throw it through corners, and it's an enjoyable package. It's sad to see that so many of these cars are no longer becoming a part of our culture here in Australia, with hot hatches and warm hatches meeting their demise, but this one keeps the fun alive, at least for now. So what are my honest chasing cars thoughts on the Kia Serato GT for 2023? Well, for the large part, it's practical, it's good on fuel, and it's pretty safe too. So those are all plus points. But it isn't all plus points. There are some negatives here with the Kia Serato GT. The first of which is the ride. I just think it's too firm around town, and even on the highway, it's just a little bit too much head tossing for my liking. I think adaptive dampers would really suit this car, just like what's in the Hyundai i30N. But it's not just about the ride, also the transmission is not the greatest unit ever either. And that's largely because it seems to want to slip and carry on, especially when cold, and it just has this really unrefined character to it. I think Kia could do a much better job with the transmission for this car going forward. And we may see a new Cerato in the next year or two, which could see a lot of updates to this car, which I think it needs, especially in the interior, which is starting to date a little bit. I think that analog driver's cluster could be better in terms of being a fully digital instrument cluster, just like the Kia Seltos. But I guess all in all, if you want a fun car to go around town in and also enjoy up in the mountains, this car is really fun in the twisties. It's got a great chassis underneath it, and I think Kia's done an excellent job in giving it that GT character. But I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. And while you're there, make sure you like and subscribe to Chasing Cars.